Welcome to the Built to Last podcast, a community for coaches founded on the principles encourage, equip, and empower. We are performance coaches working for eternal purpose. Now, here are your co-hosts, Charlie Ray and Justin Bentavania.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome to the Built to Last podcast. This is our 5th episode. We are thrilled to have you guys back with us again. We started this podcast only a few months ago, and the support we've been receiving from all you guys is just overwhelming. And so we can't thank everyone enough for listening, subscribing, everything you're doing. We are a new podcast, so if it has blessed you, if you wouldn't mind leaving a rating or review on iTunes, subscribing on YouTube. Right now, what we're doing here that might be new for people who don't know already is we actually are releasing a monthly newsletter. We just released our first one in October. And in those newsletters, you get all different things like links to the episodes, links to any articles that have come out, Bible verse of the month. And I think the coolest part of what we have there is the detailed show notes. I know when I listen to most podcasts, I'm actually in the car, and so it's usually hard to take notes. So we have put together show notes for you guys, packaged together in a way that it's hopefully easily digestible and easy to understand. You can keep them on file. Just look back at some of the biggest things from all the episodes. If you'd like to subscribe for our newsletter, you can do that on our website at www.teambuilttolast.com. Charlie, I know we might have some new people with us. Do you maybe want to touch a little bit on what we're about here at Built to Last and kind of how we came about?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for those who are listening to this. HBU softball team, thank you for supporting me. And Brock, if you're listening to this, shout out to you. But no, guys, the Built to Last podcast was created for this idea of encouraging, equipping, and empowering. We really wanted to create a network of coaches that can connect and grow and challenge each other, not only in strength conditioning, but in becoming better people with faith, character, and core values. And then also trying to empower us to be more bold for our faith. So that's one of the reasons we created this podcast. The Bible verse for the month, guys, is Ephesians 2:8-9. This is a very important verse for us to understand. And it says, "For it is by grace you have been saved through faith, and this not of yourselves. It is a gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast." So, guys, it's important to remember that because we are saved by grace through faith. We're not saved by our hard work. We're not saved by good deeds. And what an important message to leave athletes with when we live in a society where it is constantly, hey, work hard and you earn this. Well, guys, ultimately, we know that our relationship with Christ is a free gift. And so that's an important thing to remember, that God is rich in love. He's rich in mercy. He's rich in kindness. And he loves us that he would give us his son. So, Coach, why don't you go ahead and give us a background on Coach McKenna?
Yeah, and Coach, as you're talking, giving us the Bible verse, I'm getting excited. And these are things that, again, as Christians, sometimes when we have maybe been a Christian for a little while, you forget some of these, core foundational truths, and it's getting me excited. And I think that, talking about being excited, this episode, Coach McKenna is somebody that will get you excited, and I think as soon as you guys stick around, hopefully for the rest of this episode, you'll see what I mean. But Coach is the strength and conditioning coach for Notre Dame High School. He's in his 20th season as the strength and conditioning coach there. If you take into consideration the time that he coached football, he's actually been there coaching for 36 years. So Coach has a lot of experience in the field. After putting in all that time, he's racked up quite a list of accomplishments. He was the first strength coach inducted into the New Jersey Coaches Hall of Fame. He was a Sports Hall of Fame inductee in Chicago recently. He was inducted into the NHSSCA Hall of Fame as well, and he was now named to the Board of Directors for Region 8 in the Northeast. He is the moderator at Notre Dame for the Catholic Athletes for Christ, and now I think even on a broader level, he's actually a moderator for the entire Diocese of Trenton. And he has also developed a popular youth program called Building Your Foundation for younger athletes. And on top of all this, he is a featured speaker throughout the country as a strength coach and a faith coach. So without further ado, guys, sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. All right, guys, well, we're here this week with John McKenna, strength and conditioning coach at Notre Dame High School. Really excited to have you on the show, Coach.
I'm thrilled to death. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Yeah, Coach McKenna, we heard a lot of great things about you, and one of our first questions, we just want to kind of hear an overview on, what's your background in strength conditioning? What's your journey into getting into this amazing field?
Wow, I've been doing this for a long time. The journey has taken me up, down, around, and everywhere you can imagine. I've been doing this for almost 40 years. and I've been blessed that I've done it in different ways. I was a police officer for 22 years and worked midnight so I could coach football and run a local high school weight room. Then I got hurt on the job, and then 22 years ago, and then I ended up here at Notre Dame. And it's a full-time position. It's a great place to be. We're down in the dungeon. I take the whole room of the high school, and that's kind of how I ended up here. My journey in strength training, went to a small school, West Virginia Tech. I was blessed to be a college roommate with a guy named Al Johnson. I don't know if you ever heard of Al. Al's a legend in the field, and he opened me up. He opened so many doors for me because until I got involved with hammer strength and all them in the early days, Bill Jacobs and everybody, and started doing the hammer strength talks and everything. And I just was a sponge to everything I could get my hands on. So I'm a hands-on type of guy. I'm a get to know my players type guy. Grassroots. Nothing pretty about me, as you can see, but I love what I do. And I don't think I've ever had a day where I didn't come to work and love what I did.
And Coach, you quickly, you said 38 to 40 years.
Well, I got to figure
that was going to be my question. So.
38 to 40 years. Why have you stayed in the field so long? I mean, generally this is a younger man's game in that sense. People 10, 15 years, they burn out, they try to get out of it. Why have you stayed in it so long?
Well, I'm going to tell you a little story because I'm a firm believer in this. I coached football here at Notre Dame for 18 years. And I always said that, it's time to get out when the night before, a normal night before the first day of camp, can't sleep, you're all excited, you're ready to go. That last year, I slept like a baby, and I knew it was time to get out. I've never had that feeling here. I love what I do. I come in here every day. I'm involved in everything. I love what I do. And you know what? I'm blessed because I listen to people and they say that 70, 80% of the people in the world go to work and they hate their job. And I can't even imagine. I love what I do. And till the day that happens where I don't love it anymore, I'm going to keep doing it. I may hook slide my grave right from here. Who knows? But I love what I do, so I'm going to keep doing it. And
I
keep
love that.
being around the young kids.
And I think the athletes are going to feed off that too. And I remember one of the quotes that Coach Donnell Boucher down at the Citadel gave me on my first day of my internship down there with him was, be the thermostat, not the thermometer. And sometimes we got to turn that thing up high, and sometimes we got to cool it down. And it's almost like when you start to lose that sense of like, what's the temperature in the room, because you're disengaged as a coach. And like you said, you're not as excited as you typically are. It's almost a disservice to the athletes. And from what I've seen in my short career at this point is that when I am fully alert and for the session and I'm bringing my best, I think the athletes just feed off that. And I think that's what keeps this profession as incredible as it is. People like yourself who, like you said, just for as long as you've been in the profession, have been fully engaged, fully dialed in every day, and passionate about helping people. And so that's awesome to hear. One of the things in my research, Coach, on your background a little bit that's come up more than once is the quote that I think that it seems like that you live by, and something that you maybe have plastered up on your wall in your weight room is strong mind, strong body, strong faith equals strong life. Do you mind going into that a little bit?
Well, the reason I came up with that is that I really believe in it is because when I first started strength training, your job was to make them strong, and that was it. And you used to have all the posters on the walls, who could bench what, who could do what and everything. But you know what? It's about being a total package. And if you don't have it all together, and if you're not teaching it in the weight room, because I have more contact with my kids than most coaches in the building do. So if I'm not doing that here, I'm doing my kids a disservice. I believe I've got to get to know my kids. And when you get to know them, they need all that stuff. They need the strong mind. Hey, look, you're not going to college without a good education here. You know what? And for me to say that's not important, I'd be wrong. Strong body, we all know we need a strong body. And I'm a big believer. If you don't have your faith, you're in trouble. And if you put that all together, you're going to have a strong life and you're going to go in the right direction. So we talked about that every day, and you're right. It's all over the walls in here.
Wow, that's incredible, Coach. I mean, you see that when you look through Scripture, you see that, we're not just physical beings. We have, a spiritual, and we're, a soul, mind, body, spirit, everything. So it's cool that you're kind of have taken that from scripture and you're applying it into a total package, because you're right. It's not just the physical. It's not just about the reps and sets. It's about becoming a better person and developing character. So it sounds like that's really what you've been doing.
And it's neat because, you guys talk, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm one of the older guys in the profession in the high school level. But it's when I get to go to weddings of guys that I've coached in here and everything, and I go back and go to the weddings. Man, that's important to me. But I see all the things we talk about coming to life, because, I see them getting married. They're going to be a good husband. They're going to be a good father someday. And if you read any of Joe Ehrmann's stuff, that's what it's about. It's not about what I'm doing right now. It's the foundation I'm building right now. Am I going to set them up to be a good son, a good father, a good husband, someday? That's what my job is.
And I love what you said in Coach McKeefery's Beyond the Chalk episode that he did with you, when you talked about how you have, so many sons that have come through the program. Do you mind talking about that a little bit, and how you, started seeing athletes as more than just athletes, but as people that, you'd consider family?
Well, the thing is I consider anybody that's willing to put themselves out for me. And we really push ourselves in here. One of my sons or daughters, because, we have a lot of females that go at it too in here. So I have a lot of sons and daughters. In real life, I have 3 daughters, 1 son. They've all trained with me. But I have so many blessings of sons and daughters. I've got a guy in here right now, Zach Tharp, lifting in the other end of the room right now, who started with me in our youth programs in 5th grade. And I'll never forget, I tell this story to everybody. Zach's a good-looking redhead kid, but back then he was a little stumpy redhead kid. And he came wandering up to me, stuck his hand out and says, "I'm Zach Tharp. I'm going to Steiner," which is another local high school. I said, "Good, Zach, but I'm glad you're here." He's still here, and that's almost 14 years ago. Now he's a trooper in New Jersey. He's coached here. He's been with me, and I can't get rid of him. And I love him, just like a son. And I think that's important. And these kids know that I'm here for them, and I think that's important.
Wow, that's incredible, Coach. And, one of the things we also looked up, we saw that, a faith coach. That's a title that you like to refer to yourself as. You're a faith coach. Talk to us a little bit about your faith story with, how you became a Christian, then also, being referred to as a faith coach.
Well, one of the things I'm going to kind of go backwards and I'm real proud of, I am the moderator for our local school. We're a Catholic school, our Catholic Athletes for Christ group. And we have a huge group. We have almost 300 kids in our group, and we have a school of 900. So that's pretty good. But I'm really, really excited because Bishop O'Connell, the Bishop of the Diocese of Trenton, has just asked myself, and then along with our father here, Father Jason, we have now become the moderators for the whole diocese. And to me, that's an honor to what we're doing and everything. So that's at that other level where I've got a neat platform, and I get to spread the word, and the platform keeps getting bigger and bigger. And that's why I like to come to shows like this. Where did my faith come from? Hey, guys, I was a cop. I've been a father. I've been everything. And if you don't have that faith and you don't have that foundation, man, I would have been lost in life, because I was in situations where I'd look around and say, well, I'm in trouble here. And we were talking about this today. We did a neat thing today about prayer, but I call myself a cowboy prayer guy because I'll pray anywhere. I don't have to, be in church or anything. I talk to him all the time, because if you don't have God to talk to, and you're in trouble. And I think that's what's a big problem with our world right now is we don't have that communication with Jesus Christ, and we don't have that in our lives all the time. And our world's a muck right now. So it's my job to spread the word, use my platform, what I've been given, and we're going to keep spreading the word that if you don't have God in your life, you're in trouble.
No, I couldn't agree more.
Guys, I couldn't shut them off.
We've done a couple of these podcasts now. We haven't had the high school bells. Yeah, that's an interest. I didn't know if that was on my end or your end.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what that bell sound was as well. Is that me?
Cool. No, it's awesome. So, Coach, if you don't mind going into a little bit on the Catholic Athletes for Christ, I don't know if many people know much about that. What is your exact involvement with it, and then what is the organization as a whole?
Well, the Catholic Athletes for Christ is started out as a college group, and it's in baseball big and everything. And our bishop, when he was at Catholic University, brought it to Catholic University with a guy, and he's no relation, Ray McKenna, who runs the group. He's an unbelievable guy. And when he came to the Trenton Diocese 9 years ago, he challenged that he wanted our diocese to have a high school version of the Catholic Athletes of Christ. So at that time, I was running a group anywhere here with the athletes and everything, and it was really good. And they approached me about being one of the leaders, at our school. So I became the moderator for the Catholic Athletes of Christ for our school. And it really went well. Our group was big and everything. And it just evolved over the last 9 years. And we've done so many good things. We're now taking over for the whole diocese. We've got some great plans coming up. We've got a father-son retreat we're working on now, which I think is going to be a blast. We do all kind of service opportunities. So we're involved in everything. So, but it gets a group of people together. And what's nice is our kids we have a lot of kids at our school that aren't Catholic. And that's okay. And we had a kid last year, Evan Collins, who was a terrific guy, never missed any of our meetings. And he said, Coach, you never put pressure on me about being a Catholic, but it led me on my faith journey. It helped me on my journey with my faith. And we have right now 8 teams that are doing separate prayer group, Bible study groups, which Father Jason and I run. So we're active with our faith all the time. We walk the talk, and I think that's important. A lot of people get involved in this. They throw a title on it, and it's okay. Yeah, we're this, we're that. We walk the talk every day, and I think that's important. And I think the kids need to see me walk the talk for them to be involved.
That's awesome, Coach. And then with that, I'm sure there are a lot of coaches at various schools across the country who have a faith and they're maybe not sure about what to do with it, essentially. What advice do you have for them in terms of maybe if they're encouraged to start a Bible study on their campus or get involved with the athletes on more of a spiritual level? Any tips for them of things that you've done that have worked for you or ways they can start something up on campus?
Well, the big thing is to realize that as a coach, you've been given a great platform where kids will listen to you. They'll let you in the door. Once you're in the door, you got to have some substance to it and everything. So I think that's the key, is to keep plugging along. Use that platform. But the thing is the faith has to be in your heart before you can get others to believe in it. And if it's not in your heart, and if it's not what you're strong at, kids recognize fake before anybody else. Kids will find you out right away. So it's got to be in here first. So be strong with your faith first. But then once you're on fire, go out and spread it to the world. Spread it to those kids because they need it in their lives.
That's awesome, Coach. For talking about being strong in your faith, what are the things that you do to be strong in your faith?
Well, I think some of the things we've talked about, I do so many things with my faith. One, personally, they call praying. I talk to God all the time, and I think that's important that I have a personal relationship with him. Some of I have about a 15-minute ride to get into work every morning. Some of the greatest conversations I have in the morning, turn that radio off, and we just talk all the way in. And it sets me up for my day, and I feel good when I walk in here. Eric Keith got me involved in, we have coaches' Bible studies. I have the Bible studies with the kids here. I'm always studying because I'm always trying to give the kids fresh. We started a thing this year and kind of explain my theory. I'm a big believer, and part of the problem with kids nowadays is they're trying to be something they're not. Our media, our athletes have set kids up to try to be something different, to be like them, to act like them. And so we came up with this just be you theory. Just be who you are, just be you. And we've really pushed on it. So all our lessons with our Bible studies and everything involves around that, about saints that have just been them. They weren't afraid to be who they were and everything. And that's kind of where I go. I do a lot of reading. I'm a big reader. We do a lot of reading with my faith and everything. But I find myself more and more as I get older. I'm 65 years old, and that I'm preparing for the end. I'm not ready to go yet, but I'm preparing for the end, and I want to make sure that I'm okay with him when I come up there and I go to those pearly gates, and he's going to say, "No problem, let you in, dude. Get in here." And so I want to do everything right too, and I want to leave a legacy behind that I just wasn't a meathead strength coach. I was a total body coach, a total person coach, that I help the kids. And that's what I want my legacy to be. I want to be known as a good husband, a good father, and a good coach. And that's what I'm working on now.
I love that. And I think combining the three can be tough for people sometimes. And I've heard a lot of coaches talk about when they go home, it's tough sometimes to hang their hat up and put their dad hat on or their husband hat on because their coach hat has been on all day. Can you talk a little bit about your work-life balance and how you create that?
Well, I've talked about this before, and I forget which podcast I talked about it in. I heard this from somebody, and I've used it for years. I've got the tree at home, so when I pull up, I take all my problems, any problems I have at work or anything I'm thinking about and everything, and I hang it on that tree. And I go in and I become what I need to be. Right now, all the kids are grown. I got 9 grandkids, but I become a husband to my wife. We sit down, we have dinner every night at some, we're old fashioned. We do that together all the time, and it's her time. And I become, and she asked me about work. We'll talk a little bit about it. But guess what? When I go out in the morning and I pick that, I take those problems off the tree again, they don't seem as bad anymore. They kind of resolve themselves and everything. So, and I'm saying we have problems here. It's just that you always got that kid maybe you're not getting through to, and you can't understand why you're not getting through to them. But I hang them up on the tree when I come home. And there is a separation. And if you don't, you won't last in this job as long as I have. And I think I've done a good job of separating. And it gets harder because, like I said, I got 4 grown kids. I've got 9 grandkids. And they're the love of my life. I mean, my grandkids got me wrapped like you can't believe. Little story, and now the whole world will know. I've got a 5-year-old twin, Charlotte. The love of my life. She's my buddy. And like she'll tell my daughter when they say, well, you can't have something. She said, well, Bop will get it for me. And she painted my toenails the other day. And some of the kids who played for me and have worked out with me knew the coach was getting his toenails painted. When I walked in the house, she says, Bop, and she looks up at me, can I paint your toenails? I said, go do your thing, hon. That's fine. I had a blast. And my daughter's just looking at me saying, are you really my father? And but it's amazing the changes you go through. But there's God right there. Through my granddaughter, I see God every day. Beautiful creatures that He's created, and I'm blessed to have them around.
And I think that's great for the kids to see on you too. Again, if you walk in with the fingernails painted, I don't mean in that of itself, but
not my toenails, not my fingernails, guys.
Oh, the toenails, gotcha. So we're hiding those.
I don't know if I go to my fingernails,
Hiding them.
Well, even if they did see, right? One of our strength and conditioning coaches here, he's got a daughter, and he wears like a pink bracelet that she gave him, and he has that on. And the guy's got a shaved head, thick beard, 240 pounds, solid muscle, and he's rocking the pink bracelet. And I think it just shows our athletes as well that he's not afraid to be a family man, and he's not afraid to have that side of himself and be open with it. And so
that's the most important thing you can have. And in this business, I'll tell you what, your family is your salvation, because you go home and share the good, the bad. I mean, I come out every Friday night, even though I don't coach anymore, come to the games. The kids and I are still close because I'm their strength coach here. I mean, we have a unique situation. It's like a college. I'm the football strength coach. So from January on, I'm with those kids all the time. And, they come over, give me a hug. But my wife goes everywhere with me. She's my best friend. There's another key, fellas. My wife is my best friend. And she'll go everywhere with me, and they come over and give her a hug. And it's a feeling of family. And it's a feeling of being part of God's family. We're all together in this, and I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and that's the same thing for me too, and I can echo that completely. My wife, she co-leads we have a Fellowship of Christian Athletes Bible study here at Hofstra, and she takes the women, I take the men, and it's just incredible to see the journey of how close those girls have gotten with her, and she's asking me. She wants to go to the games on the weekends too, and it's just a cool feeling when your immediate family at home is getting more and more acclimated with your work family, and I couldn't echo that more. And
it makes work a lot easier, doesn't it? Because now when you go home and you do talk about kids, they know who you're talking about. You're not going, who you? My wife knows who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
In my room, we have an adult program here where I bring adults in at night. They work out. My wife works out here. And
there you go.
I've created that family atmosphere, and I think that's important.
Nice. Yeah, Coach, thanks for sharing that, because a lot of people in this field, they do have that hard the hard time separating their work-life balance with family, and they bring work home and they never shut it off. And when they're at home, they're thinking about work. And then when they're at work, they're thinking about the family. And so I just, I really appreciate you sharing that, and also getting to invite in your wife into your life. And I want to dive back into the platform that you talked about that we as coaches have, getting to almost have your wife in your life and it plugged into all the different areas. You are now having an opportunity to be a testimony, a living testimony of how Christ is at the center of a godly marriage and that type of stuff. And so I want to ask you, with that platform, what type of message do you the athletes at the end of each training session? We always have a 5-minute gap or whatever between workouts, sometimes shorter. What message do you usually try to leave the athletes after the training sessions?
And you know what? The message I'm going to leave them is going to depend on the team, where they are during the season, what they're going through. One of the things that I think I'm very good at is I know my kids, I know my team. I talk to my coaches all the time, and they use me to deal with things they may be going through as a team, because guess what? It's like talking to your dad. You hear the same thing over and over, and sometimes you stop listening. And that's just like with a head coach. They hear the same thing over and over, and sometimes they stop listening. Or they hear it from me, whatever the message may be. They hear it from me. They said, wow, I know they respect me, and I know they'll listen to me, and I think that's important. Some type of the message always centers around God, because I believe that everything that you do starts with God, ends with God. And if you've got your life centered like that, what can go wrong? What can go wrong? I'm doing everything for the right reasons. I have a good heart. I know that. And that's not me having a big head or being, I do. I know I do things for the right reason, because I've been there and I've been a sinner and I've done things for the wrong reason. So I've adjusted my life also. So the message is to the kids is just be who you are, but be a better version every day. And if you can get that out of the weight room, you come into the weight room, and if you could be a better version of what you were yesterday, we're okay.
And that's something that I'm seeing more too in our culture now. I think, and it goes back to coaches like yourself and people in this profession who are doing a great job of shifting the mindset of process over product, right? And a lot of coaches we talk to are putting a huge emphasis on the process, and that's what we do all day is process work, And so for you, Coach, when we talk about the process and we talk about what we do on a daily basis in our weight rooms, there's a buzzword right now, culture. I think that's just been brought up so many times in our profession, whether it be at a conference or at a presentation or just talking to other coaches. What does culture mean to you? And what are some things that you do to establish it in your weight room?
Well, I believe for any weight room, culture is the most important thing you can have. And especially in a day and age where, let's just talk about culture of hard work. We hear this all the time. We go to clinics. Kids are changing. They're not as tough as they used to be. They don't work as hard as they used to be. That's your fault. That's your fault in the weight room, because in my weight room with my culture, that doesn't happen. And I hold them accountable. And I really believe kids want to be held accountable. So you develop your culture in here. We have a culture of hard work. We push our past our comfort zone. It's squat October right now. We're going to squat somehow every day.
I love it.
They know that. They know my culture. We do the Murph run here every year. We do the Murph run. We're going to push ourselves past our comfort zone, because if I teach them to do it down here, they'll do it in the classroom. They'll do it at home. They'll do it in life. They'll do it with their relationships. They'll do it everywhere. They'll be willing to take that other step. So if I teach it down here and they develop that culture of hard work, of being dedicated to your team, being dedicated to everything you do, caring about your character, caring about your faith. If I develop that culture here and it's held tight every day, guess what? It'll spread to the rest of their life.
And that's really encouraging to hear too, Coach, because I remember a quick story on my end. So I was working some summer camps here at Hofstra, and it's not my typical job because obviously I'm working with the athletes here, but over the summer it's an opportunity to get some extra work in. And working with these young kids, a lot of times just reining them into focus on some of the things that I'm trying to teach them can be a little bit of a challenge. But at the end, like Charlie was talking about, at the end of the training sessions, I do like to give them a little bit of a message to take with them. And I do like to impart a little bit of wisdom on them, just to be maybe a little bit more of a positive influence in their life. And sometimes it felt like they wasn't always getting through. And like you're saying, with the platform that we have as coaches in the weight room, you would hope it would transfer to other areas of their life. Well, that was my goal, try to give them some food for to translate to the rest of their life. And like I said, it doesn't feel like they're always listening, but one day I gave them a quick story about when I was playing high school football, and our high school football told us that high school football coach told us that there are a lot of guys on the football team, but there aren't many football players, right? And that stuck with me. And pretty much anything I did, there can be a lot of guys on the lacrosse team, but there aren't many lacrosse players. So there might be a lot of strength and conditioning professionals in their field, but there aren't many strength coaches, right? And so I shared that with those kids. And again, just a typical day, like I didn't know if it was really sinking in and they were processing it. But then when we came back the following day and I asked them what they learned at camp, and some kids talked about a specific basketball drill they learned or a way to move the ball or to communicate on defense. One of the kids raised his hand and he said, I need to be a basketball player, not just a kid on the basketball team. And I couldn't believe it. Just sometimes.
How good did you feel, Coach? How good did you feel?
Yeah. Sometimes
Nice.
they're not listening, but even when you might not think that they're listening, I think that they are. And so that was awesome hearing you say that, though, Coach.
It's like I always said, and you don't know who's listening to you all the time. You think they're not. And again, every coach has probably got their story, but I have a thing where I say, it's not about you, it's not about me, it's about others. And I say it all the time. And I said, once you realize that it's about others, you'll be rich, like beyond belief, and not in money or anything, but you'll be a rich person. And we had a school video here, and one of our kids up on the ramp at a school as part of the video, and he said, and remember, it's not about you, it's not about me, it's about others. And I'm going, yes, somebody's out there listening. And you want to do the electric slide across the room or something.
That's it.
And that's when it comes out.
That's awesome.
That's awesome, Coach. Hey, I wanted to ask a follow-up question with, in regards to kind of leaving that message with the athletes. So, you work at a Christian, a Catholic high school. I work at a private Christian university. For those of us who don't necessarily work at Christian private institutions, how do you bring up God in a way that's not shoving religion or your faith down their throat and just forcing it on them? How do you bring it up in such a way where you're able to encourage them and really kind of challenge them to think differently about some stuff?
Coach, I think what happens if you walk the talk and then they'll ask the questions, that opens everything else. That you've got to walk the talk. If you're at a school where maybe they don't promote you talking about religion and everything, but if you walk that talk, eventually the kids are going to start asking questions. Coach, why do you live like that? Why do you do that? And then once they open it up, I think it's free game. And then you tell them why you live like you do and everything. And I think that's the way to do it. A lot of our guys in our profession, and I think one of you guys said this earlier, not afraid, but don't know how to walk the talk. And don't be afraid to walk the talk. Don't be afraid to be proud that you're a good Christian. There's nothing wrong with that, and it's not sissified. I think in the last 20 years, we have sissified religion and made it where, go to church. It's wives, it's kids, but the husbands aren't in there. Men need to get back into church. Men need to get back involved with their faith and everything. And it's not sissified. Hey, guys, I got tattoos all over my body. Look at me. I don't look like a sissy. Look at that group back there in my heyday. But you know what? Walk the talk, they'll ask the questions, and then I suck them right in.
Yeah, if our listeners are listening on iTunes or Spotify, they probably can't see the picture behind you, but there's a gentleman with a mustache and a hat on, just like you're wearing, with absolutely massive pythons for arms in a drawing of yourself there. How'd that picture come about? I like that one.
There's a local police officer who's a sketch artist, and he drew that. I was doing a thing for the local church, and he drew that, and that has followed me for a good 15 years. So we always use that picture. So I do a show called The Great Day to Be Irish, and a little podcast type thing where I take a student, teacher, faculty, and we do it right here. And they had this sign made. They bought me this huge microphone here, and we have a lot of fun with it. And we do. We talk about faith, what we do here at school and everything. But that's where the picture came from.
Yeah, that's a great
My
shot.
wife always says, I wish you still look like that. I said, that was a long time.
All right. Cool. Awesome. Coach, just want to jump ahead to another question we had here. So obviously you've been in the profession a long time. What's one of the more memorable stories you have of something that you'd had somewhere it was adversity and you had to overcome that adversity?
I think the hardest part is probably when you start in a room and you start new and you have to prove yourself and you have to sell your ideas. That's hard for any strength coach because, you got to get them to believe in your system. Excuse me. I'm to the point now that I've been doing this long enough where I could tell them to lift a pen 100 times and they believe in me. But that took a long time to get here and everything. And I think that's the hardest part of what we have to go through is to get them to believe in us.
Yeah, and you see coaches now. I mean, it's not uncommon to be at 5 different schools in 5 years. I mean, the nature of the profession, whether you're doing internships or you're just better opportunity opens up. It's so common. And so what do you think's been a testament for you for having such longevity at one school for such a long period of time that's helped you be successful?
One, I don't like change. And 2, you know what I did do? I took advice. I had a good friend, Coach Chappie Moore, when I came here. And the advice he gave me is, just don't be the strength coach. Just don't be the football coach. Get involved in the whole school. So, we have a Kairos retreat. I get involved in everything upstairs. I go to things in the school. I've become part of the school, and I think that's important.
That is, I think that's gold for everyone. I remember when I was at I'm not sure if it was this past year or 2 years ago, the CSCCA conference, Coach Ken Manny, head strength coach at Michigan State University. Mm-hmm. He was at the Gatorade booth and he was on the mic and he was talking about how if the president of your university doesn't know who you are, maybe you need to rethink the impact you're making. And that stuck with me because I'm saying, wow, I'm trying to make an impact in athletics. And what you had just said there, Coach, just reminded me of that in the sense that don't limit yourself to just athletics. Don't limit yourself to just the weight room. There's such an opportunity across the whole campus or the whole school to make an impact on these kids. And I think, like you said, I think it goes a long way when you're looking for trust from them. Well, they see you involved in so many other areas of their life that I think you're just going to get more buy-in in the weight room. And
you're right, because, again, we go back to talking about you have that platform. Well, that platform will work anywhere you take it. And I take it upstairs. I take it with our Kairos retreat. I am who I am. But there's nothing wrong with doing it upstairs, down in the basement where I am, or doing it on the field, or with kids anywhere you can, with youth programs anywhere. I want to be involved in the total package here. I want to be part of the solution, not one of the problems.
That's a really good segue, Coach, into my next question I had for you. Thinking of problems and solutions, 38, 40 years of coaching. I'm sure you've made a lot of mistakes that you've learned from. If you wouldn't mind, what would be 1 or 2 mistakes you've made as a coach that have, really helped you grow, and how have you, become a better person from those mistakes?
One of the mistakes I used to make as a young coach, and you get headstrong that you know everything, and this is the way we've always done it, is not to communicate with your coaches. And what I mean by is now every year, I'll sit down with my football coach. What are your goals? What's your personnel? Even though I already know them, where do you want to be come August? How can I help you get there and make them feel part of it? Where I used to stay a little bit isolated, where it was about, I don't want to hear from you guys. I know everything. And once you realize you don't know everything and that you want to include them, the cooperation just opens up, not only with the coaches, but with the kids and everything else. I've got a new soccer coach, Dan Dunnigan, who just came in. He was a college coach at Rutgers University, and working with him has been a pleasure because he understands the importance of a weight room with their team. We're lifting in season, out of season, doing all the right things. But the big key is, and he has said to me, and we've talked all the time, is the communication process. And I think I've gotten better over the last 20 years. If I had to change what I did the first 20 and what I've done the second 20, is my communication process with the coaches has been much better. And I think that's a key because, it's their it's like their kids. That's their kids. That's their, so, I'm just getting them on rent and I'm going to have to give them back to them eventually. So I want to know where they want to be with their team. And I think by doing that, then I can come in the weight room and I can adapt the program a little bit. If I know my football coach wants to be a high-paced offense, well, guess what? About 2 months before the season, I'm going to start adding a little bit more cardio into my program, and that short run and that quick, and I'll put it in my program. I'll change my program a little bit. And I think that's important.
And Coach, if I could follow up on that, how do you handle a situation if you and a coach don't see eye to eye on it, in the sense of whether it be a programming type thing, or I'm sure there are coaches in the profession who have dealt with a sport coach who saw something on the internet or did something in their own training person that they like that maybe isn't the safest thing for an athlete or in line with your philosophy. How do you go about that situation?
Well, one of the things I'm blessed here is because, I've been here so long and I've proven myself over and over. I don't get that as much anymore. But when I used to sit down. I'd bring a coach in and we'd sit down and go over it. I said, here's why it's not going to work, coach. And I said, remember, and I'm a firm believer in this, anything works for a short period of time because it's something new and you're going to get gains. But is it going to be good for your athlete over the long haul? And that's a key. Is it going to be good for your athletes over the long haul? And I think, again, communication. If you sit down with them, you don't put them on a stage. You don't confront them in front of the team. You sit down with them, in a closed little area like this, and you talk it out. I've never had a problem that I couldn't resolve.
That's great to hear. And I'm sure they even see it too. Again, your day-to-day interactions with the athletes, if they see how much I'm sure you care about the athletes, for them, the conversation's an easier one because they know you're coming from the same place they are, that you want the best for the kid. So. And
I do. And that's all I want. I want to treat each one of them like it's a son or daughter to me. And I want to train them like they were my sons or my daughters. And I only want the best for them.
Man, that's such a testimony to, how we see in the Bible to really just treat those around us as brothers and sisters in Christ, and to treat those, almost as family members, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, Coach, I wanted to ask you something. We talked, a little bit about strength conditioning and mistakes and that kind of stuff. What would be your best advice for, those that are listening to this from a spiritual standpoint? A younger strength coach just getting in the field. What would be something you would want to encourage them with spiritually?
I think the thing, and again, I talked about this earlier, is to be secure with yourself about your faith. If you want to teach faith and you want to really make an impact with kids, one, you have to be real. If you're not going to be real, they're going to smoke you out right away. And I think you have to be secure in your own faith. And if that means you've got to take your faith journey first before you present it to the kids, that's important. But, for years I was on that journey, and I'm still on that faith journey. But it's to the point where I can expose myself to the kids and I can work with them. But I didn't really start doing that until I came to Notre Dame and I was given the opportunity, and I felt secure with my faith. I got guys that knew me from police work that now I come back and I talk to the local groups and everything. They said, wow, we didn't know you were such on fire with your faith. I said, because you know what? I was still exploring myself when I wasn't ready to proclaim and say how important it was to me, even though it was in here. I said, now I'm ready. Now I'm ready, and I do it every day.
That's really cool. And then, Coach, I know that over time you're going to deal with all different personalities and all different situations that present themselves. Do you have any stories of a time where you were able to engage an athlete on more of a spiritual level and maybe help them with the problem they were going through? I'm not asking for specifics or names or anything like that, but a way that you were able to go outside of just coaching strength and conditioning and share that faith on a more in-depth level?
It's funny because we talked about them kids repeat what you say and everything. That happens with faith a lot. You'll talk to kids about their faith. You'll talk about problems they're going through. And sometimes you really don't know if you helped them. And then 10 years later, they'll come back and say, hey, Coach, remember that time you sat down with me and talked about, he said, man, I think about that every day. I got a kid right now that walked on to Notre Dame University, Xavier Lazinski. And he says that to me. He says, Coach, gave me for instance, remember that day you sat down and talked with me about believing in yourself, never giving up? He said, that's one of the reasons, that I walked on. A lot of the lessons you taught me in high school. You don't know that. So guess what? Do everything with a good heart, keep preaching it, and it's going to affect people. And some people may never come back and tell you. Doesn't mean I'm going to quit doing it.
Yeah, it reminds me of our call as believers. Our call is to be faithful. You know, God's the one who produces fruit. He's the one who changes people's hearts, and our call is to be faithful. And Coach, it's such a testimony to be able to see. That's like, I'm young in my career, and to be able to hear you say that, it gives me hope that, man, just because you don't see an immediate change, it may take 5-10 years. You know, an athlete may come back, and you don't know what type of impact you can have on somebody.
Well, one of the things I got to tell you guys, and I'm really impressed because now, what number show is this? Is this number 2, or have you done a couple more before? Or?
We've done a few.
This
This would be 5.
Number 5, yes, sir.
Okay, number 5. You're spreading the word. You're doing something that a lot of young guys aren't doing. So I think it's a testament to you guys to be able to walk the talk and be willing to get out there. And this is the way. Look, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, some of the guys I trained, they say, Coach, you do what? You have a big Facebook page? You do what? You do podcasts? They never would have believed you. I remember years ago when I first started training, I trained a guy, Gary Brackett, who ended up playing for the Colts. He was a middle linebacker and everything. He taught me how to text. I wouldn't know how to text. I had one of those old phones. I would be like this, going all over the place. But you know what? You got to evolve with time. And I give you guys so much credit. And that's why I want to jump on a show like this in a minute, because we need this. We need to get the word out there. We need to get the word out to people, and you guys are doing it. And I thank you for doing what you're doing.
No, we appreciate that, Coach. Honored that you'd even say that. But one of the things that's truly been an encouragement for Charlie and I is that when we went into starting the show, it was a question of, all right, well, where are the guests going to come from, right? Who are we going to have on the show? Obviously, our networks are somewhat limited at this point in our careers, and not really sure exactly which coaches have a faith and which coaches don't. But right from the get-go, our list is actually getting so long that we're trying to schedule episodes into 2020 now because of how many coaches want to be open with their faith and encourage other coaches. And so thank you for everything you're doing and being open like the way you are.
Thank you. And you're right. There are so many good coaches that are on fire with faith out there that you'd be blown away. And I'm sure you guys are starting to find out. You know, I could sit here and I could give you 10 names right away of guys that you should talk to. And you should really, because they'll get you all fired up and everything. And I think that's important. I think we have to spread the word. Again, I talked about, we need men back in church. We need men to be men.
Amen.
And look, I'm a big believer in there's the equal thing, men, women, all that. But men need men. And men need other men to stand up and say, yes, I'm on fire with the Lord Jesus Christ. It's okay. Don't question my manhood. And if you want to walk the talk and be like me, here's how we do it.
Wow. Incredible, Coach. Well, we get to, the last part of the episode. We always like to finish with 3 quick questions. We call them our fast finishers. And basically, we would just ask you, what's a favorite book that you have, a favorite Bible verse or story from the Bible, and then how do you define success? So we'll start with that first one. What's been your favorite books?
I think my go-to book, and I say this all the time, so everybody who's ever listened to me already knows it. Tony Dungy does a book, Uncommon Life, where he has daily readings every day. That's my favorite book. That's my go-to book because it's short. Every day I read something from it and everything, and it's done daily. It's a great book to have. Anything done by Joe Ehrman. If you've never read anything by Joe Ehrman, I think it's worth reading that. And then, of course, if I don't mention the Bible, because if I don't open the Bible at least once a day, something's wrong with me. I'm all centered and everything. So I think, for one, I gave you 3. So there you go. I gave you a little bit more than
Thank you. Appreciate that. And then what about a favorite Bible verse or a story that really resonates with you?
Okay, guys, it's on my wrist. And for those guys, of course, if you're on the radio, you can't see it. Proverbs 27:17, iron sharpens iron. Because
Amen.
I think that's what we're about sharpening each other. We're doing it right now. We're talking about what we love to do. So We're sharpening each other. I deal with the kids. I'm sharpening them. I'm getting them involved. So people dealing with people. And that has to be my favorite verse.
Oh, that's awesome, Coach. And then last question, how do you define success?
That's a hard question because, and nowadays where it's about, fame, it's about money and everything. I think it's about success is in what I can do for others. And the more successful other people are, the more successful my kids are, the more successful the kids I train, the people I train, the people around me are. And if I've done a little bit to each one of them, then that's success for me. And it's not about me, it's not about you, it's about others. And what I can do for others, if I can help them, that's what I want my legacy to be.
Coach, we can go on for days, and I can't tell you how many notes I have here in front of me from this episode and how much I've been learning. But we truly, truly appreciate you coming on the show and sharing everything you did and being so open about your faith, about your coaching, about your story. And I know a ton of people are going to take so much from it. So we truly appreciate it. Is there a way our guests can contact you if they want to get in touch with you and follow up on something they heard?
Yeah, you can anytime. It's McKenna, McKenna, at ndnj.org. You can email me. But come on, guys, I'm an open book. You want to give me a call on my cell phone? 609-209-7739. Give me a call and I'll talk to you. If you want to talk about your faith in the weight room, that's great. If you want to talk about what you got to get for groceries or something, don't call me. But you know what? If you want to talk about what I love to do, call me anytime.
That's awesome, Coach. Thanks so much. We truly appreciate you coming on today.
Hey, guys, thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Built to Last podcast, where we encourage, equip, and empower coaches to live out their core values where they live, work, and wherever they build relationships. Have a blessed day, striving to build lasting impact.